and she haul-tails out the room, and this time she makes direct eye contact with an individual standing in the doorway. And she sees this person mouth, "Story motherfucking time." So some time ago, someone shared a story with me requesting that I share it but keep them anonymous. So no shout outs, no tags. I read the story that they shared with me, an experience that they had, and I am just going to tell you guys the most creative way I can. And we're gonna come up with a name for this person. We're gonna call them Daisy. So Daisy works in healthcare. She was a CNA at the time. And Daisy had just started this brand new job as a CNA. She was super excited, and she was looking forward to, you know, having her first real check, and she was thinking about moving out and doing her own thing. And she was happy that she had a consistent income to do so.
Big Birkin bag, hold 5-6 figures.
So fast forward, these are the first couple of days that she's on the floor. Those first few weeks of dreadful, horrendous orientation that y'all know what I'm talking about. It was behind her. And she was working alongside this other preceptor. We can call that person Mary. So Daisy and Mary were working together one night. It was a night shift and they were working 11 to 7. And it was probably like 2 o'clock in the morning. They're doing their rounds. They're checking on their patients. A couple of patients needed to get cleaned up. So Daisy asked if Mary could come in and help her clean the patient up. So Mary, in the process of orienting Daisy, was also trying to get some work done as well. Like in her mind, she's thinking,
we still gotta get through all these patients. We're still responsible for all of these patients.
So she was in another patient's room trying to get them cleaned up, get their vital signs, when Daisy stepped her head out and was like,
Yo, has anybody seen Mary? One of the nurses asked Mary if she can please go into room 17 to help Daisy finish cleaning up the patient.
So Mary finally gets into the room. They're tag teaming this patient. They're getting cleaned up when Mary says,
oh my gosh, you don't have any more chucks. Okay, don't worry about it. I remember where you told me to go get the chucks. I'm gonna go grab a bunch and just keep it in this patient's room.
So she goes to where she thought the chucks were, but she was wrong. You know, she's learning. She's in the process of orienting and working, you know, baptism by fire. And so she reaches out to a nurse and asks,
hey, where can I find more chucks?
Apparently at this facility, I guess they had certain supplies for certain things in different areas, and I guess it confused her. So the nurse was like,
oh, you're gonna have to go towards the other unit in their supply pocket because we're running low on this end. So if you don't see it where you initially looked, then you gotta go over there.
Okay.
So Daisy heads in the direction that the nurse sends her in. And she notices that as she gets closer to that supply room that the nurse sent her, that she was starting to feel a little bit more cold. She didn't pay it any mind. She's thinking,
nobody ever comes over here. This area looks abandoned. Let me just get what I gotta get and head back to the room. Mary's waiting on me.
So she opens up the door, she grabs the chucks, she walks out, and she said she swore out the corner of her eye she saw someone standing in one of the empty patient's rooms. So she looks over really fast. Nothing. Nada. De rien. Okay? Nothing. So they finish cleaning up the patient. Daisy says absolutely nothing of what she experienced because she swore that it was just her eyes playing tricks with her. So Mary's going about the rest of the night telling her where everything is, and so it's time for them to clean up another patient. And Mary actually goes the same place that Daisy went, and Daisy said,
oh no, the nurse said there aren't any more on this side. We're running really low, so she sent me to that other supply closet towards another unit, towards the end of this unit.
So then Mary was like,
why would she send you over there? Why not just send you to the supply closet right around the corner?
and so Daisy just shrugs. She was like,
I don't know. I just went where she told me to go. I knew that you were waiting on me. No, I completely get it. I just don't understand why that was her first option.
And immediately Mary was like,
This is how you know that nurses don't do what we do. You know, she didn't even know where to send you.
Mary was annoyed. She let that go. So they get the supplies from the other supply closet that was right around the corner, and they go clean up that other patient. They get the patient cleaned up, and the patient's all set. They realize that it's time to do another set of vital signs on each of their patients. And in each patient's room, they actually have monitors that are like attached to the rooms. So they didn't have to go around with that vital sign machine that hardly ever works. If you know, you know. However, for whatever reason, this patient's pulse ox, the stickers that we put on their fingers to continuously monitor their oxygen, had came off. So then Mary says,
please do not go to that far end supply room to get a new pulse ox monitor. Please just go to the one right around the corner.
So as she's walking back towards the supply room right around the corner, she realizes that you need a code to get in. She didn't remember to ask Mary what the code was because they both went in the last time together and she didn't need to remember. She just followed Mary in. So she looks around the corner and of course she sees the same nurse that sent her in the wrong direction and just said,
hey, can you just give me the code to get in to this supply room?
The nurse, very willing to help, gets up and was like,
Oh yeah, totally. I'll just go in there with you because I also have to get some stuff.
So she says the code is 345. I don't know. So Daisy doesn't actually end up having to put the code in because the nurse goes over there and puts the code in herself and was like,
Next time, just put in 345.
she goes in, gets what she got to get. Daisy goes in, gets what she got to get. She goes back into the room, gives it to Mary. Mary was like,
did you go into the correct supply room? Yes.
They are finishing up their shift. They have one more person to get vitals on. This person, this other patient, same issue. Pulse ox rips right off. Some of them, when they have dementia, in general, they pick at things. And especially sticky things. So some of them, they just like the sensation of peeling it off. Some of them don't like how it feels to have things attached to them. So they just pluck it off. They take off their blood pressure cuff. So once you peel that thing off, it loses its stickiness. It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't give you an accurate oxygen reading. So she just heads out. She offers to go herself. She just wants to get oriented and continue to go about the motion so that she can, what she's learning during this orientation sticks. And she doesn't have to keep asking questions. So she goes back to the supply room. She enters 345. The door doesn't open. She enters 345 again, the door doesn't open. She looks around the corner, she doesn't see any of the nurses because it's busy, it's a busy floor. And she doesn't want to go back in there and ask Mary,
can you please just give me the code or
say anything about that room again, especially because she just told Mary
I was able to go in there and get everything myself.
She's trying to portray herself as more independent. I would have just went in there and asked, okay? So what does Daisy do? She goes back down the hall to that other closet that does not require a code to get in.
3, 4, 5.
She opens up the door. She immediately sees the pulse oxes, the little stickers, the pulse ox stickers. She grabs a bunch of them and she haul-tails out the room, and this time she makes direct eye contact with an individual standing in the doorway. And she sees this person mouth, "Help me." And she haul-tailed back to the other end of that hallway, back to the unit. And as soon as she gets back, she has to pass the nurse's station. She sees the nurse sitting there, and she says,
hey, that wasn't the right code that you gave me.
And the nurse says,
Oh, you know what? Silly me. I think it's 345, and then you go back to the number 1.
You've been working here for how long as a nurse, and you accidentally gave me the wrong code? So Daisy doesn't argue with her. She doesn't pay it any attention. She pays it no mind. She goes into the room, hands Mary the pulse oximeter sticker, and they go back to the nurse's station and they start documenting the numbers and all the vitals that they got, all the people they had to change, all the patients they had to walk to the bathroom, everything. They document what they have to document. And so now it's getting closer towards the end of the shift, and she expresses to Mary what happened to her. And Mary says,
You know what? I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I've always felt like she was a little weird, and I feel like she was messing with you. And I feel like she sent you down to that other end because she knows that you're new. Don't let her do that to you.
so then of course, Daisy, not liking how she feels about this whole situation, she's not liking how it feels like another grown woman is picking on her. So, before everybody leaves, she pulls the nurse aside and she says,
I know that you knew the code to get into the supply room. Why did you keep sending me down to that other supply room? I feel like you know something and you were deliberately trying to mess with me.
and so the nurse denied it. She denies it. She denies it. And she's like,
No, I promise. I just totally forgot the code. I'm not trying to mess with you. We're all here to support you.
it just seemed scripted. Daisy lets it go. She just feels better about the fact that she went up to the nurse in the first place and said,
Hey, I don't like that you did that. I know what you did.
Fast forward, the next night she's working, she's scheduled to work, she goes in, she's working alongside Mary, they're still in orientation, and of course that nurse is working. Why didn't we give that nurse a name? We can call her Monica. So Monica's working again, and Mary's working again. Of course there are a bunch of other nurses, but all those other nurses and CNAs don't really play a factor into this story. And so Daisy says, she's getting the hang of things. She's doing things more so on her own now. And during this shift, what her and Mary did was they just sort of split the load instead of doing everything together. And then Mary would just check in with Daisy every time she has the time to. And of course she would pitch in and help whenever she can. So Mary says to her again tonight,
Don't go to that closet. This is the code to get in. Let me know if you need anything. Ask me if you need anything.
So Daisy said she deliberately waited until Monica, the nurse, hopefully that's what we call her, was at the nurse's station. And she started to act as if she was going to walk down to the other end. She says to her,
I gotta go grab some supplies. Let me go to that other supply room.
and so the nurse smiles and says,
Okay, yeah, sure.
so then she walks down there, she turns the corner, but she doesn't actually walk all the way down. She just turns back around to see if the nurse was going to check to see if she's walking all the way down. Lo and behold, the nurse sticks her head out and sees her, and they make eye contact, and the nurse jumps. And so then Daisy starts to walk towards her and says,
Hey, I met someone down there. They wanted me to tell you that they said hi. And they're waiting for you.
and so the nurse gets completely ashen in the face. The two of them don't speak for the rest of the shift. Daisy doesn't tell Mary about it. She has a great rest of shift. She doesn't ask the nurse any questions. The nurse doesn't try to help her with anything, nothing. And I feel like I gotta say, I respect her approach. Don't mess with me. We're all adults here. And if you want to deny that you're messing with me, then maybe I'm gonna mess with you a little bit too. Now nobody's messing with anybody. Why we got to do that? Why did things have to get to this point? Anyways, y'all, please make sure you check out my editor. Please make sure that my editor is Blake Wake. He's Blakewick on all platforms. Check out my literary masterpieces. Check out my Kindle Vella story on Amazon. So it's on Amazon, but it's under Kindle Vella series, and it's titled Zyla. And so what I'm going to start to do is I'm going to start to tell that story here on YouTube. So just go ahead and take a look at it and see if that's something that you're interested in. And keep giving me feedback. Keep sharing your stories with me, guys. Make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. Thank you.